This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. What is an object?
Object
It
is
is
an
a
entity
yeah.
which has state, behavior, and identity.
Very good. Okay. And class?
Class is a blueprint.
Hmm.
To create an object, we need a class.
Okay. Very good. Did anyone created a class and object yesterday?
No, Ravi.
Don't miss to do hands-on. It's more important. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, again, it's my system got restarted. Let me share my screen. So I hope you guys understand what is a class now, what will be declared as a class, how will be declared as a class. Okay. In Java program, we will be having a class, and there also the difference is there in Java program. If you declare a class, in that class you can declare a main method, and you can run that program. But here we will declare a class for defining a new data type. See here, what is a pen? Is a class, right? So if you look at here, how I'm using pen, so I can use like this. It's a pen. So it means my cello pen is a variable, pen is the data type. Cello pen is a variable, pen is a data type. It means in Java, in Scala, Java and Scala classes are same. Okay, there is no difference in it. Both are same. But no, in Java, if you write a class, you can have a main method and you can run the program. But in Scala, if you can also write a separate class. You can also write a separate class. Let's say I have written a person class like this. I have written a person class like this. Person, his age, name, salary, something. Okay. I have written some person class, and I have some method also in the person class. I have some methods also in the person class. I also written main method. Look at here, guys. I also has written a main method. But if I go ahead and run this program, first of all, I'll not get a run option itself. So you cannot run your classes. You cannot run your classes. You can only compile your class, and you can create your class type. you can create your class type. That's it. You cannot run, or you cannot what I can say, I don't want to open any console here. Let's stop. Okay, so we can compile and we can create a separate type or data type, class reference type, but we cannot make use, we cannot run them. We cannot run them. They'll not be executed. Classes in Scala is not runnable, only compilable. Is this clear? This is important. The classes, whatever we use in Scala, used to create an objects, will not use that classes for running the program, like Java. What are the things a class can have? The most important thing, guys. What are the things the class can have? This will call as the data members. These are called member methods or member functions. Even this also member method and member function. It can have another block of code. If I write like this, I can have some block of code. I can have a member method. I can call this also member method. I can call these guys as the data members. Along with this, I can have a constructor. We'll talk in detail what is a constructor. I'll create a constructor like this here. We can have a constructor like this. Okay. If you don't have anything like this also, by default, every class and object will have a constructor. Try to remember this. Every class will have a constructor by default. If you don't create one constructor, your JVM will give one constructor. If you don't create a constructor, your JVM will give one constructor. Don't think that if you don't have a constructor, the class itself doesn't have any constructor. If you don't give any constructor, by default, your JVM will give one constructor. Is this clear?
So, Ravi, how to make it executable with a constructor?
You cannot make it executable. You can make only compilable.
So, if we have any object in this, then only it will be executable.
No, only object. Okay, if you are talking about this object like this,
Yeah, yeah.
then
The
this will be
object,
this.
the object should have main method. Yeah.
Yes, this object can be yes. Okay, I will discuss slowly one by one. Okay.
Okay.
So I can have a constructor, I can have a data members, I can have a member methods, I can have a block of code. Okay, so these are all, okay, and I can say these are all the we can have in the class. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, let's talk about how to create an object. Creating objects is very simple, guys, like this. Variable name, new keyword, class name, and if it requires any parameters for the constructor. Let's say, let me explain what is a constructor. Constructor is actually telling you constructing an object with initial values. Constructing an object with an initial values. So if you don't specify anything, at the time where you declare the class, it means it has one default constructor. It has one default constructor that will provide by your JVM, as I said. Okay, let's look at the constructor. The constructors are there, different type of constructors are there. We will talk about that. Let's look at the constructor. So we are clear about the class and the object. Let's look at the constructor. Okay, let me explain the constructor also, then I can easily take you through this. There are so many things. Let me show you a student class. Okay, this is the class student. What is the purpose of the constructor? As I said, very simple guys. Constructor is used to construct an object with the initial values. Constructor is actually useful to create an object with an initial value. So in other programming languages like Java, there will explicitly write a constructor. Okay, let me show you how Java will looks for the constructor. Let's assume that this is my Java class. This is Java code. So I will write a constructor like this. If I want a constructor in Java, I will write a constructor like this. One parameter, two parameter, third parameter. Here only two parameters. This is constructor overloading. Okay, don't get confused. This is constructor overloading. If I have the same constructor twice with a different argument list, it's constructor overloading, like your method overloading. And the constructor name and class name should match. Constructor name and class name should match. And the constructor should not have any return type. Constructor will not have any return type. That should be mandatory. Okay, here we will write same as your class name and some variables which will actually get the data. But when it comes to Scala, instead of writing a separate code, here only we'll specify that. Here only we'll specify that. So what is this? Who is passing value to them? So whenever you are creating an object, look at here, I'm creating an object here, student object. I'm creating a student object. While creating a student object, I'm passing some values. This Ravi 32101, these values will go to this constructor here. Then those values we can print based on the methods we can take. We can actually print them based on what I can say in the methods. Okay. I'll explain what is this also. This is later we'll talk. If you declare your constructor like this is called primary constructor. Try to remember guys. If you declare like this, we will call it as a primary constructor. Primary constructor. primary constructor. People will ask in interview, what is a primary constructor? Primary constructor is a constructor which construct an object with initial value. A constructor which has been there with along with a class signature, that we'll call as a primary constructor. So if you look at here, I have created with the 3-parameter constructor. I have created with the 3-parameter constructor, but I want to create with a 2-parameter constructor for the same class. I want to create a 2-parameter constructor. I will just pass a name and ID. I don't want to pass age. For that kind of requirement, we do have something called auxiliary constructor. Auxiliary constructor. If you write like this using this keyword, look at here guys, this is quite important and quite confusing also. If you write here itself, it's a primary constructor, and if you use this keyword, these are not methods, these are constructors. Auxiliary constructor, auxiliary constructors. Look at here guys, again I'm repeating. If you write inside the class signature, we will call it as a primary constructor. If you write inside the class with using this keyword, that will call auxiliary constructor. Please make a note, it's quite important.
Ravi, can you repeat it once again?
Okay, if you see the line number 3, if you create a constructor along with the class name signature, we'll call it as a primary constructor. If you want different constructor, primary constructor should be there. Okay, primary constructor should be there. Then if you want to create a constructor overloading or a different constructor for the same class, we will use this. And also don't forget to mention every auxiliary constructor should call a primary constructor. Every auxiliary constructor should first call auxiliary constructor, primary constructor, then it can do. It's just creating, it's just calling the primary constructor. Here it is calling primary constructor and also doing some operations. So this can be done, but there should be a call to your primary constructor in the auxiliary constructor. Auxiliary constructors are nothing but we will create a method with a, it's not actually method, we'll call it as a constructor only. We will use a diff and this. When you say this, that's it, it's a constructor. It's a constructor. When you say this, it's a constructor. Okay, and inside that constructor you should call your primary constructor. You should call the primary constructor. Without calling primary constructor, there won't be anything. Please make a note. Is this clear?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay, so there won't be any default auxiliary constructor. There will be only auxiliary primary constructor. There won't be any auxiliary default constructor. So if you are saying the default constructor, it means it's a primary constructor only. Okay, if you see the difference here, no, this person class, I don't have anything. I don't declare anything. You see the student class, I'll just close this. You see the student class, the difference. Both are classes only, but one guy has a parameters list and other guy does not have any parameter list. It means student has a constructor, primary constructor, where person class does not have any primary constructor. Okay, if we do not specify any constructor, so in the person class, if I didn't specify any constructor, your JVM will create one constructor. Okay. Any questions about the primary constructor and auxiliary constructor? And also one more thing I want to make you understand. Normally, let me take this one. Suppose this is my class, right? This is my class. Like, look at here. I'm going to write a system.out.println here. It's not at all hello. Okay, that's the reason it's not coming. System.out.println. If I write like this, it will not allow. I cannot write because inside the class directly you cannot write any expressions or any print statements. It has to go through. It has to go through some methods. The execution has to go through methods only, right? I cannot write like this here. I cannot write like this here. The execution has to go through either methods or constructor. Either methods or constructor. This is the constructor I have written, right? Either methods or constructors. But when it comes to the Scala, I can directly write a println statement here. You see, I have already written here. Okay, it means whatever you have declared here, right, that will be considered as a constructor, and whatever you are writing here, right, that will be considered as a inside the constructor. If you define a different method, no problem. If you don't define and you are lying any statements like this, those statements are considered like a inside the primary key. Okay, so these statements are considered as a inside the primary key. These are all auxiliary constructor. This is auxiliary constructor. This is a method. This is another method. This is primary constructor. You can call first one is a statement in. It's a statement in constructor. Okay, since you have defined a different method, it's a different method. It's a member method. It's also member method. Don't get confused with the override and all. We'll talk about them in the coming sessions. This is also member method. This is the statement inside the this is auxiliary constructor. This is another constructor. Auxiliary spelling I think is not clear. Auxiliary constructor. It's an auxiliary constructor. What is auxiliary constructor? Auxiliary constructor is auxiliary. LIA. Auxiliary constructor. It's an auxiliary constructor. It means which is not a primary constructor. A constructor will be constructed using this keyword. Try to remember, guys, wherever you see this, suppose if you are inside the class, this class, and you are referring to this, whenever you say this, this represent the current class or current object. This represent current class or a current object. So this means here this means I'm writing a constructor for current class. That's the meaning of this. So since it is not a primary constructor, it is a auxiliary constructor. Auxiliary constructor should call a primary constructor. You can create any number of auxiliary constructor, but you will be having only one primary constructor, correct? You can have any number of primary constructor, auxiliary constructor, but you can have only one primary constructor. Auxiliary constructor should call the primary constructor. Auxiliary constructor should call the primary constructor. Try to remember this point. Auxiliary constructor should call the primary constructor. Okay, so to create auxiliary constructor, what we'll do, we'll use this keyword, and you can create like, so look at here I use the two parameters, here I use the two different parameters, here name and id, here id and name. I can use a single parameter, I can use a single parameter also, I can use a zero parameter also. I'll use only id I'll pass, because I have to call a constructor, I have to call a primary constructor. Okay, okay, so this is how we will do constructors. Any questions, please ask me about the constructor, because it's quite important. So please try to understand the method of constructor overloading. Constructor overloading is nothing but writing a different constructors by using this keyword. This keyword is same. Look at here, this, here also this, here also this. This is calling a primary constructor by passing three parameters. So you look at here, this is calling a constructor. Calling a constructor also will use this keyword only. Calling the constructor also will use this keyword only. Okay, and this keyword constructor, when you're calling a primary constructor, right, when you're calling a primary constructor, try to remember it has to be a first line. It has to be a first line. Look at here, this has to be first line. No, I'll write it a second line. First I have to print like this, I'll write a second line. If you say like this, it will throw error. It has to be first line. It has to be a first line. Okay, so remove this. So you will say like this. Yeah, it will accept. It will accept. Okay, multiple different points I'm explaining you. Please make a note. I hope everyone is making a note in the notebook or somewhere. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions so far? Now
Ravi,
declaration.
you don't have
Yeah,
to mention any name for auxiliary constructors. This keyword is enough.
we will use this keyword only. We cannot use any other name. If you use any other name, it will consider as a method. This itself is represent the current class object, current class constructor. See why we need a different name. The constructor will have a different name than your class. Is constructor will have a different name than your class?
No.
Constructor will not have a different name as the other than your class. Even if you take a Java, even if you take any other language, your constructor should have the same name as your class name. If you create a different name, then it will not be considered as a class constructor. It will not be considered as a class constructor.
Instead of this, we can use the class name.
No, here it will not. Here it will not. In Scala, it is not.
In Scala, we cannot. We have to use
Yeah.
this keyword only.
Yes. Let me try for you once. See, it is considering as a method. It is considering as a method. Okay. So you have to use this only. Clear, Gautami?
Yes, Ravi.
Any other questions? So, and also you should be very careful. The method overloading rules will be applied here. Method overloading rules. What is the method overloading rules? Number of parameters, type of parameters, order of the parameters. Same here also. If you look at the line number 24, I have a name and ID. Name and ID, two parameters. If you look at the line number 29, I also has the two parameters, but order is different. Order is different, and the data types also can be different. Okay. Okay. So now this is how we'll declare, but how we will call them? How will I call my auxiliary constructor? How will I call this auxiliary constructor? Look at here an example. Look at here an example. If I am calling directly with the three parameters, it means I'm calling the primary constructor. I'm calling the primary constructor. Calling primary constructor directly. I'm calling primary constructor. Okay, for the student class. Suppose if I'm passing only two, if I'm passing two parameters, I'm passing to only two parameters. My student does not have a primary constructor with the two parameters. My student class does not have a primary constructor with the two parameters, but it has an auxiliary constructor, name and ID. Let me click on this. If I click here, see where it will go. I'm clicking on this. It is going to here. Auxiliary constructor with the two parameters, name and id. Name and id. So it means this constructor, if I'm calling like this, it is representing your auxiliary constructor. If primary constructor is not there with this, those many number of parameters, it will directly go ahead and call the primary constructor, sorry, auxiliary constructor.
Ravi, just a question regarding the
Yes,
syntax. So,
yes,
if you don't use a colon student, then also it will be a
yes,
variable.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Even if I don't use this, it will consider as, since it is a data type, right?
Mm-hmm.
New keyword I'm using and using this one, right? That will be used.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. And so far we have used like this and we processed. So we have assigned that object to here. Let's look at here. Raju, Ravi, Veera, Kumar. I have assigned them, but here I am not assigning to anything. This is called anonymous object. Anonymous. Okay. Is this clear? Some people call primary constructor secondary constructor. Whenever they say secondary constructor, don't get confused. It's auxiliary constructor only. Secondary constructor is nothing but auxiliary constructor only. Okay. Without having a primary constructor, you will not be having a secondary constructor. Without having a primary constructor, you will not be having a secondary constructor. Okay. Based on the requirement, how many constructors you want to have, those many auxiliary constructors you can declare. I hope is that clear. So this is how we'll call. Let me execute this one. So if I'm calling the student, right, is a student object will be created, Ravi. And when I say Ravi dot print student, what is a print student? Is a method. I'm printing the student details, nothing else. Okay. Let me comment other stuff. I'll call them. I mean, I want to call one by one. Okay. I'm just commenting this. I'm calling only the first one. Okay, there is some issue in some line number student class where it is line number 36. What is the issue? Not found value name. Yeah, here value I'm not passing, but I'm still making use it. And what is this? ID also not there. I'll just passing ID. That's it, right? I'm using this. I'm using the parameters like a name and ID. There are no name and ID inside this, so that's the reason. Okay, let's go ahead and compile.
It will again throw error, I think.
Yeah. So I'm primary constructor line number 4 in the student class. This get executed. This is get executed. Then this is get executed because first it will get execute all the primary constructor values. This is also inside the primary constructor, right? This is also inside the primary constructor. It's a primary constructor. Okay, so all this primary constructor part is executed. Then if you see this one, then done. Primary constructor is then println and Ravi. I'm trying to print object. I'm trying to print object. Here you need to understand one thing, guys. Okay, you cannot print objects directly in the console. You cannot print objects directly into the console. Look at here. Since I have overridden this toString method. What is a toString? The string converts your object into string. ToString method converts your object into string. Look at here. What I have done here in the ToString method, I have written, you say first name is my name, age is this age, ID is this age. Like that, I have converted string. This is a string. This is a string or not? Line number 10 is a string or not?
But what are you trying to achieve here with this? I mean, you're concatenating the
I'm not
parameters part.
concatenating. It is a text, right? I'm just like it's a decoration. I want to
Okay.
print my name. I want to print my age. I want to print my ID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to print my name as a first name equal to my name, second age equal to age, ID equal to this. So it's a decoration, right? So this decoration I'm doing it in this way. See, okay, very simple. I'll tell you. I'll just comment this. Okay, let me comment this. Okay, now let me compile this code. Compile and run this code. Okay, now look at here. Line number 4 printed. Line number this constructors are printed. But look at here, Ravi. Line number 8. This is line number 8. Look at how it printed. Look at how it is printed. Hash code, but hash code is printed. Okay. Okay. Let me compile. You cannot print object directly. You cannot print object directly. It will print like this. You cannot print object directly. But if I override, there is a method called toString method. The toString method is toString. The name itself is saying now toString. Convert your object to string. Convert your object to string. Look at here. I'm converting my object to string. See, my object contains what? My student object contains what? Name, age, ID. That's it, right? My object contains methods and members, so that's a different. But I'm interested in the members only, right? When you're printing your object means what you're trying to print? State only, no? States. Anyway, behaviors you will not print. Behaviors are nothing but methods. Behaviors are nothing but methods. You cannot print the methods. Methods are used to call a set of code, a set of piece of code. The with methods we cannot directly print on the console. We can call the method and we can print the content which is there inside the method. But when you're printing object, the meaning of printing our object is the printing object means you're trying to print state or members of object, like a name, age, id, these things. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to overwrite them. So override the toString method. ToString method, why I need to overwrite? Why can't I directly write a toString method? Because the toString method will be there in the default. ToString method will be there default. ToString equals hash code, okay, notify, wait. These all will be there by default. Okay, for instances, for references, for reference types, in Scala, for reference types, your toString, your hash code, and everything will be there. Is it? Let me show you that also. Hash code, right? Let me click on this hash code. Look at here, hash code is already there. Okay, which class it is? From which class it is? Class object. Class object. From where it is coming? From Java language. Scala is from Java language only. Few of them is actually used directly Java part only in the Scala, right? So it means in Scala, for the primary data types, the top level class is any. For the primary data types, the top level class is any. Inside the any, you have a reference type, right? You have a reference type. The top level class for the reference type is object. For the reference types, the top level class is object. This is object, whatever I'm showing in the line number 26. Oh, sorry, line number 37. This object has default methods. Let me show you. Clone equals, finalize, get class, hash code equals, notify, toString, wait. These are all the methods are available. In this object class. So these methods you can directly make use. So when you're trying to make use, if you want to override with your own declaration or own body, you have to override like this. So that's the reason I'm overriding toString method. Overriding is not overloading. Look at the closely. So overriding, it means the behavior is already there. I'm writing my own behavior with it. The behavior is already there, but I'm trying to write my own behavior.
So Ravi, whenever we pass a parameter to a constructor,
Hmm.
toString method is, or by default it is called.
No, whenever you declare, you really no need to pass also. Whenever you try to create an object, for that object, the toString method, hash code, equals, notify, get class, clone, all these methods will be by default available. You really no need to pass a parameter to the constructor. You really no need to call a constructor. Even though, see, this person class, right? Do you have a constructor here? Do you have a constructor here for the person class?
No.
Okay, so I'm creating object here, no? The k is nothing but object, correct? K is nothing but object. So if I say k dot hash code, it will be there.
Yeah.
K dot hash code is there. K dot toString is there. K dot equals will be there. K dot notify will be there. So these are all methods coming from the object. Object, which is the parent to your reference types. So what I'm trying to say here is, irrespective of whether you pass a constructor or parameters or not, your parent class object will be available. In that methods, what are the methods are there in that, those are available for you.
Okay.
Suppose those methods behavior is different. When you want to overwrite with your own behavior, this is my own behavior. So my toString in the student class, by default the toString will have one behavior, but I don't want to go with that behavior. Let me show you that also. Here, right, Ravi, when I say dot toString, I can say dot toString here. Okay, So when I try to print it, oh, I have uncommented. I have uncommented here. Yeah, I have uncommented.
Yeah.
Let me comment.
Yeah.
Let me comment this. This is also important in interview. People will ask, what is the toString? ToString is converting your object into string. Look at here, line number, that's one out, printing Ravi object directly. Even though you have used toString, it is not printed your name and age and that ID, right? But if I overwrite it, so this toString behavior, I'm going to override the toString behavior. I'm going to override the toString behavior. So like this way, like this way, like this way. Now if I go ahead and run this code, I really no need to call toString here. Without calling toString also it will work. If I overwrite like this, see, printing Ravi object directly, first name is this, age is this, salary, ID is this. So the purpose of the toString is converting your object into string.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the toString method, and you are calling a normal method here. This is a hash code. This is a hash code is unique code for every object. Suppose if I create one more object here, like a Raju, so Raju hash code will be different. Okay, so if I create one more object with Vera hash code will be different. So the hash codes will be different for every object based on its content. Okay, and what I need to, yeah, this is I'm calling a method. This is I'm just calling a method. This method I'm calling, print student. So this print student is coming from here. Guys, unless you do the hands-on, the hands-on, you'll forget the concepts. You'll easily forget the concepts. If you forget these concepts, the going forward will not be understandable. Other classes will not be, you will not be able to understand. Please spend some time, try to understand, create a class, simple class, create a car, create a pen, create your mobile. So write some classes, or create employee, create student. So try simple examples, then create objects and try execute them. And this code is already available in the GitHub. It's our link already have given to you. You guys go there and take the examples and refer it. Try your own. Okay, any questions? I know that this is this today this concept is something little new and confusing. So that's the reason I don't want to start another new part today. So please, you guys spend some time, work on it. Then if you have any doubts, please ask me. I will help you. Any questions? Any questions? Venkat, Gautami, Rishabh, Sai, Sudhir. Sudhir is there? What happened, Sai? Sudhir is not joining? Sai, your audio is not audible. Okay.
I tried to connect
Vishnu.
him, but he's in offline.
Okay. Okay. Varsha, any
Sudhir is
doubts?
offline now.
Yeah. Any doubts, Varsha? Rishabh?
No, Ravi.
No,
Fine.
Ravi, not.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day. That's it for today. Just let's practice this class constructor and toString, these things. So we'll connect tomorrow and we'll continue this other stuff.
Yeah, Ravi. Ravi, do you have that document where you have listed the scenarios for our practicing purpose?
Like a Hive, I have mentioned that one.
Yeah. For Hive
For
and Scala and
the
so
Hive scenario, and it means like I do not have like do this one, try this one, such kind of things. So the Hive document itself is a kind of scenarios one. Create a table, create a partition, create a bucket, and load the data into bucketed table, load the data into
Yeah.
Hive table, that kind of thing. For the scoop also, what are the scenarios we did, like we importing, we didn't do the export, so export has to be done. Importing or incremental import, these are all scenarios. These only will directly come into the real-time examples. I'll check it if I have any document like questions or scenario based one, I'll share with you guys. Yeah, I think I remember you have asked me sometime the same, right? I remember. I'll look into today. Yeah, if I find it, I'll share with you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you guys. Bye.